did it take so much effort for the sea otter to get its meal? After all, these shells are just made up of calcium carbonate, ordinary chalk. And that's not tough at all. The secret is in how mollusks arrange the crystals of calcium carbonate. A shell is made up of several layers, but the iridescent inner mother-of-pearl layer, the nacre, is the really spectacular part. Magnifying the shell thousands of times reveals an intricate structure. Flat crystals of calcium carbonate sitting in a matrix of protein. If one crystal cracks, the crack simply runs into the protein, which is just stretched, absorbing the energy. Eventually, the protein matrix will absorb all the crack's energy and stop it dead. But the protein does more than just stopping cracks from spreading. It's responsible for the precise way in which the crystals are laid down. As the mollusk grows its shell, it secretes these proteins, which form a layer over its body. As calcium carbonate is secreted into this layer, the proteins make sure it crystallizes in just the right way to form nacre. Nacre is a kind of ceramic, a tough, non-metallic structure made up of tiny crystals. Humans have been making their own ceramics for thousands of years. Pottery, for example, is also a ceramic. And apart from pots, we now use ceramics as engine parts or even tank armor. But when we make ceramics, we have to heat them to perhaps 1400 degrees centigrade. Nature makes its ceramics at sea temperature. And what it can do is truly spectacular. And these ceramics, made by humble mollusks, are twice as strong as anything we can make. Such natural flamboyance gave scientists the idea of isolating the proteins responsible for organizing the way nacre is laid down. Then, by changing them, they hope to be able to grow all kinds of intricate structures. Perhaps even computer chips more powerful than any that can be made by today's methods. In the freezing cold of the high Arctic, it's not strength, but warmth that's needed. Polar bears are cozy even in sub-zero temperatures. Seen with an infrared camera, the brightest areas are those losing heat, which for the polar bear is mainly its nose. The rest of its body is extremely well insulated, apart from the tips of its toes. In the snowy wastes, it's almost as well camouflaged in infrared as it is in ordinary light. The polar bear's high Arctic survival gear is its fur. Each hair is transparent and hollow, and it used to be thought that this conducted the sun's heat down to the skin. Polar bear skin is black, which absorbs this heat. Now scientists are not so sure, but it was a good idea nevertheless. So scientists at the Institute for Textile Technology at Denkendorf in Germany have developed an artificial polar bear fur that does work in this way, by conducting infrared and ultraviolet radiation down to a black base layer. These fibers on their own are not as good at insulation as polar bear fur, but a transparent layer on top improves the overall performance by trapping a layer of warm air. Wrapped around a water container, this material can warm the water just by conducting the sun's heat, even though it appears this isn't how polar bears do it. The more we look at the microscopic detail of nature's structures, the more we find they can do. All the plants in a tropical rainforest depend on these torrential downpours for survival. But they can also create problems. The rain washes down dirt, which could coat the leaves and block out light. Worse, wet leaves will soon grow a layer of mold in this warm, humid environment. Some rainforest plants have drip tips, designed to drain water off the leaf. But some just don't seem to get wet at all, no matter how much it rains. This is the most spectacular, a lotus leaf. Slow down more than 100 times, it's clear that the water just bounces off the leaf. The water can't spread out and wet the leaf. Instead, it just reforms droplets that bounce across the leaf until they fall off. Again, the secret is in the microscopic detail of the lotus leaf. Its surface is covered in tiny bumps, each of which is capped by a waxy layer. The caps repel water, forcing it to perch on the very tips of the microscopic bumps. Unable to reach the leaf's surface, all the water can do is roll back into a sphere. And since it's repelled by the tiny bumps, there's nothing to stop it rolling off the leaf. But even more impressive, the water drops pick up any particles of dirt on the leaf's surface and carry them off as well. So lotus leaves are always immaculately clean. A reason why they're a symbol of purity in Eastern religions. And it's too good a trick for science to miss. This fabric has all the water-repelling qualities of a lotus leaf. To make it means first weaving a strong, dense material. The material is then run through a machine that coats it with a substance that's still a closely guarded secret. As it dries, this coating produces millions of microscopic bumps over the surface of the material that work in the same way as those on a lotus leaf, making a material that is not only water repellent, but self-cleaning. And there's already a self-cleaning paint based on the same principle. Ordinary paint soon gets dirty. But dirt and water just roll off this new paint, called lotusan. And a similar coating over this spoon means simple, pure water will pick up any dirt and leave the spoon totally clean. The surface, developed at the University of Bonn in Germany, even repels something as sticky as honey, which just runs off like water. Won't it be great when the self-cleaning shoe is invented? Repelling water is the key to good waterproofing. And both people and nature have invented many ways of doing this. We use fabrics coated in water-repellent oils. And many birds do the same. Spreading a layer of oil over their feathers. Which means the water just runs off like, well, water off a duck's back. So ducks would be the obvious place to look for improvements in waterproofing. But in biomimetics, it's not always the obvious places that are the best. Hidden beneath the surface of a South American stream, a strange spider has a novel way of waterproofing itself. These spiders prey on small fish in mountain streams, and underwater, they trap a silvery layer of air around their bodies. But when they emerge from the water, they're completely dry. Researchers at the University of Bonn in Germany have been trying to unlock the spider's secrets. The spiders are covered in bristles, and it turns out that the spacing and three-dimensional arrangement of these bristles is critical in giving the spider its extreme waterproof coat. The scientists here have measured the exact spacing of these hairs, as well as looking at the intricate microscopic architecture of the individual hairs. Using these findings, researchers have developed an ultra-waterproof fabric. As a test, it was submerged in water for 4 days and still emerged bone dry. Staying dry is certainly not a problem faced by the sandfish. This lizard lives in the most inhospitable parts of North African and Middle Eastern deserts. Bare, sandy dunes. It's called the sandfish because when it feels threatened, it can dive into the sand. It's able to swim through the dunes as if they were water, which is surprising since moving through sand should take a lot more energy than moving through water. So scientists from the Technical University of Berlin decided to take a closer look at this ability. They found the sandfish's skin had lower friction than glass or even polished steel. The sand just rolls off it. And it's not at all obvious how it performs this trick. Its shovel-shaped head certainly helps, but its ability to swim through sand seems to rely mainly on its remarkable skin. Magnified more than 25,000 times, a series of tiny spikes appears along the edge of every scale, each just a few millionths of a millimeter long. Somehow, these structures must reduce the friction between the grains of sand and the skin, though quite how is still not clear. And even stranger, these tiny structures just don't seem to get worn away by the sand. One possibility